पीछे पे
Kaveh Maharaj. Kaveh Maharaj. Kaveh Maharaj.
His Holiness Bhakti Keshava Swami. Welcome everybody to the center. Please try to move forward, and there is a lot of space outside. It looks cold, but it's actually very pleasant. And there is plenty of space there. You can sit comfortably for the ones in the back. So, you want to sit outside? You're gonna offer me a better.
Yeah, somebody else.
Give a big Hari Bol to His Holiness.
Hari Bol!
I'm not going to give a full introduction. Maharaj, please, would you like to introduce yourself? No, really. When I start, I will not stop, you know. He is amazing Maharaj. He is traveling all over the world, talking the whole world with spiritual wisdom. Not only with spiritual wisdom, also by his personality, and all the things he brings. Just enjoy the kirtan, nourish it, cultivate it, take home as much as possible for more balance in your life. I have a lot of new friends here, students came. Where is Rose? Rose is a student. I see sometimes college and student, and Rose came, and I have one more. One is also a student.
Many of you, it's your first event, like a first Hare Krishna event.
Yeah, you just have to.
Who is it the first time for Hare Krishna
Who
event?
is here for the first time? Yeah, you as well.
Yeah, in this house.
Yes.
This house. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Usually in our events we have more space for sitting. So, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We're all here, and we have an opportunity to disconnect a little bit from the world. You know, sometimes when you have like a device or something and it's not working, then you can try and do so many things to try and fix it. But sometimes all you have to do is disconnect it and turn it on again. And when you turn it on again, everything seems to start working again. So you know, in life it's kind of like that, Hare Krishna. We need to also spend some time to disconnect from the world, because it's a crazy world, and it's a world in which there's so many demands and so many pressures and so many problems and so many fears about the future. And so sometimes we just need to step away from it all and say, for a few moments, for a few hours, I'm just going to forget about it. And then maybe when I go back to the world, everything will look a little bit different. So these gatherings are an opportunity to do that, to just step away from everything. So yeah, please be with us. It's very, very spontaneous, so I didn't necessarily come with a subject matter in mind, but if you have anything you'd like to discuss, then maybe you can think about that and we can see where we go. So for those of you here for the first time, we are singing Hare Krishna. Someone once said to me, I love you guys, you're always singing, you're always smiling, you're always on the street dancing, but don't you guys have any new songs? So I was explaining to him, a mantra is very, very beautiful. You can sing it again and again, and if you sing it with more attention, if you sing it with more intention, and most importantly, if you sing with love and a genuine desire to connect, then you can actually experience something very, very divine. Einstein, he once said, you'll know what is the truth because it will have two characteristics. It will be simple and it will be beautiful. And when I first heard the Hare Krishna mantra, I thought, this is so simple and this is also so beautiful. Maybe it's the truth. And 35 years later, I'm still chanting the mantra, still trying to experience the deeper dimensions, but it's very powerful. So we'll chant a little bit. And please chant from your heart, don't be shy. And for these moments, just try and disconnect. Don't worry, everything is going to be right there waiting for you later. But if you can reappear in the world with elevated consciousness, it might all look very, very different. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Hari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Hari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Explained that in the spiritual world, every step is a dance, every word is a song, every day is a festival, and every act is an act of love. This world that we're living in is just a transit lounge. It's not our true home. We're here just passing through for some time. And actually, the real purpose of our journey in this world is to understand that we belong somewhere much more beautiful. And so when we chant the mantra, it's an opportunity to connect with that reality. which is the reality that we seek in our hearts. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jai Gaur Har Gaur, Har Gaur, Har Gaur, Premanande Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Om Adhyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shubhani Kastyapyadeshavarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Guru Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasadi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Hare Ram Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Vivo!
Amazing. Round of applause. Once they asked Srila Prabhupada, for those of you who are not familiar, Srila Prabhupada is the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. So when he was 69 years old, he left India. And all he had in his possession was 40 rupees. And he stepped on board a cargo ship which was bound for America. He was 69, he had no money, he was old, he didn't have good health, and he ended up on an Indian cargo ship. I don't know what an Indian cargo ship is like, especially in 1965. I can imagine it was not very nice. But he decided to make that journey because he wanted to share something beautiful with the world. So in those days, to come from India to America, it took 2 months on a ship. And so here he was all alone on the ship for 2 months. Arriving in America at the age of 69, never been outside of India. He said, I came off the ship and I didn't know whether to turn left or right. On that ship, he had actually 2 heart attacks, but somehow or other he survived. And the amazing thing is, when he arrived in America, what did he do? He didn't go to the hospital. But what he did is he went to a New York park. And underneath a tree, he sat down with a bongo drum. If you go to one of our temples in America now, New Vrindavan, you can see that original bongo drum that Srila Prabhupada had. It was all he could find. And he sat underneath a New York City Park tree and he began chanting Hare Krishna. And people stopped, looked at him, and were thinking, what planet did this guy arrive from? Normally for New Yorkers, nothing makes them blink. But even this was too much for them. No one had expected Swami in the middle of a New York park. What's he doing here? The Srila Prabhupada was fearless. His name indicates Abhay, which means one who has become fearless, having taken shelter of divinity. In this world, people are trying to become fearless in so many ways. Get an insurance policy, save up in the bank account, get the vaccination and the health insurance, whatever it may be. But none of this makes us fearless. None of it actually gives us security. But Srila Prabhupada, when he was once asked, what do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna? He said, I feel no fear. Just think about that for a second. Imagine you could live your life with no fear, with no apprehension, with no nervousness, and you could just follow your heart's dreams. How amazing that would be. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned that most of us are functioning in this world out of fear. Therefore, it said the very, very first instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says to Arjuna, Vasocyan vasochastvam pragyavadanscha bhashashe gatasun agatasuncha nanusochanti pandita. Socha means anxiety, fear, worry. The very first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, na anusochanti, don't worry about anything. And the interesting thing is that the very final instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sucha. The very final instruction he gives to Arjuna, ma sucha, don't worry about anything. So we have so many fears in our life. Fears about our health, fears about our children, fears about whether we'll ever find love, fear about our career. When we're happy, we're fearful that it will end. And when we're unhappy, we're fearful that it will never end. Always fearful. So the whole idea of spiritual life, the whole idea of spirituality is to rise above the clouds. Nowadays I fly a lot. And it's a very beautiful feeling when you actually fly through the cloud line on an overcast day like this in Amsterdam. You can take off from Schiphol. And it all looks very dim and it all looks very depressing. But then you go through the cloud line and there the sun begins shining. And all of a sudden life looks very, very different. So most of us are living under the clouds. But what happens is spiritual life elevates you, it lifts you up, it lifts you through the cloud line so that you can actually live life free of this fear. So yes, we have to get on this plane. This plane goes through the cloud line. It gives us fearlessness. And then what happens is it transports us to the spiritual world. The Christian writer C.S. Lewis said, if I find in myself a desire which no experience of this world can fulfill, then I must conclude I was made for another world. And therefore, we weren't made for this world, because we were made to live happily ever after. But the problem is, in the material world, no one lives happily ever after. But the amazing revelation of the Vedic teachers is that the soul has three qualities: Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means that the soul is eternal. Chit means that the soul is conscious and living. And Ananda means the soul is full of happiness. So when the fairy tales say they lived, Chit, happily, Ananda, ever after, Sat, they're actually talking about the spiritual world and the spiritual nature. And so that's what we're trying to find. So we're headed for the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada arrived in America in the hippie revolution, and everyone was trying to get high. But Prabhupada started a program and he called it Stay High Forever. And in that program, one hippie put his hand up and he said, Swamiji, what is the spiritual world like? And Srila Prabhupada looked back at him and said, it's like an ocean of LSD. Which was a creative way to share the joy of the spiritual world. It's an ocean of LSD. So, we all have that opportunity. And so Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashkit yadati siddhaye. Out of many, many thousands of people in this world, maybe one may begin thinking, what is actually the purpose of life? And out of thousands, the rare thousands who are thinking, is there a deeper meaning? Krishna says maybe one will actually spiritually perfect themselves. So this is very, very unique. And, well, you can all give yourselves a pat on the back because you are amongst the elite individuals who are actually inquiring what more is there to life. And if you want to know what more there is to life, then only spirituality can help you answer that question. Science will only go so far. Science improves things, but spirituality improves people. Science will help you in the how and the what, but spirituality will teach you the why. Science is all about improving products and processes, but spirituality will tell you the philosophy behind it. And science maybe will be able to answer your questions, but spirituality will help you to question the questions and say, why am I doing all of this in the first place anyway? And so it's a great opportunity. Srila Prabhupada, he came to the Western world to share this knowledge. And he often said that the East is like a lame man who has sight, and the West is like an able person who's blind. And therefore, all of the technology, all of the infrastructure, all of the opportunities that are available in the so-called developed world need to be accompanied by spiritual vision. Otherwise, we won't know how to utilize those things in a way that will actually make us happy. And therefore, in the world today, people have so much and still unhappy. We have taller buildings and shorter tempers. We have wider highways and narrower minds. We have more degrees but less common sense. We buy more but we enjoy it less. We've conquered outer space but we don't know how to deal with inner space. We lose our health to get wealth, and then we spend that wealth to try and get our health back. In this way, civilization is missing an important piece of the puzzle, the most important piece, which is to ask the question, why am I here in the first place? And so, when we go out in the world, we don't tell people, you have to just believe us for what we're saying. But what we do tell people is that you have to start deeply questioning about life. Einstein, he said, never stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. Have you noticed when we're kids, we ask so many questions? Can you do this? Why? Because of this? Why? Because of why? And it's amazing at a certain... Yeah, stop asking. Too many questions. But at a certain point in life, we stop asking questions. And so the Krishna consciousness movement, spiritual gatherings, disconnecting from the world and coming together like this, is not just a social function, but it's an opportunity to try to understand what more can I be doing with my life? What more can I be doing to make this life more and more beautiful? What more can I be doing to find a deeper type of happiness? And when we spend time exploring and questioning and asking those questions, then our life becomes more and more meaningful. So, these were some initial thoughts. Does anyone have any questions or anything you would like me to talk about? Geeta Govinda, was there like a specific topic today?
No.
There's no topic?
No, it's not specific. Anyhow, somebody want to...
Yeah, if anyone has any questions or if you have anything you'd like me to speak about, then I'm happy to try and have a discussion with you. If you have anything you'd like to talk about. Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question? Not to put you on the spot, but... Yes.
Thank you for giving us your association. I had one question that I wanted to ask you. There is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Devasya Maya Sprishta Ye Chamyat Asadashata Bhamete Dhimratadvakya Atmani Uttatmana, which means that a person who is directly surrendered unto Hari is never bewildered by the words of another who is controlled by the illusory energy of the Lord. And when we, in this Hare Krishna movement of Srila Prabhupada, we take 4 regulative principles. One of them is no gambling. And the ill effects of gambling are quite conspicuous to us as devotees. So my question in this regard is about Yudhishthira Maharaj. We know that Pandavas are pure devotees of the Lord who are very favored, especially favored by Krishna. And Yudhishthira Maharaj is the most saintly among the Pandavas.
So why did he gamble?
So how could he commit such an obvious blunder and lose everything in response to a challenge which is obviously coming from someone who's under the illusory energy of the Lord?
So this is a story from the ancient literature known as the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is a very old book. It's considered the longest poem in the world, 100,000 verses. And it's basically the history of ancient India. So in that story, there's a great king who's known for his integrity, his truthfulness. His name is Yudhishthira. And at one point, he gets challenged to participate in a gambling match, and basically he becomes overcome by losing his principles and eventually gambles away the entire kingdom, his whole family, and even his own wife. So the question on the table is that how could he do that? Well, the first thing to understand is that all of these personalities are acting under the influence of a higher energy in order to teach us. Therefore, these personalities are not under the influence of what we call Mahamaya, or the illusory energy that all of us are susceptible to. But what they are under the control of is a higher Shakti known as the Leela Shakti or Yoga Maya. And therefore we'll find that sometimes even eminent personalities, for the purpose of showing an example to the world of how powerful illusion is and how powerful temptation is, they seem to temporarily fall into illusion themselves. And therefore that's perhaps the most logical way to see this. That this often happens. Arjuna is another example, Yudhishthira is another example, so like this. But yes, all of us are very, very susceptible to illusion. Sometimes we know the right thing that we should be doing, but what happens is the power of illusion, or what we call in Sanskrit Maya, is so powerful that oftentimes even when we know the right thing to do, we keep doing the wrong thing. And so the only way to overcome the power of Maya is to have more and more presence of Krishna or divinity in your life. There's an ancient verse. Krishna Surya Samahoya Maya Andhakar Jaha Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Radhikar. Krishna or divinity is compared to the sun, and Maya or the power of illusion is compared to darkness. Jaha Krishna, wherever there is Krishna, Taha Nahi, there cannot be any presence, Maya Radhikar, of illusion or darkness. And therefore, the moment that we turn away from divinity, the moment that we lose our spiritual awareness, at that moment we become susceptible to Maya. And therefore we tell people, Maya is an equal opportunities employer. Everyone can be a target. So like this, we have to be very, very careful. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
You spoke about Srila Prabhupada and how he came to the West. Oh, okay. You spoke about Srila Prabhupada, how he came to the West. Do you have any thoughts about what he would tell us now, today? Like, what did Srila Prabhupada tell us, looking at the movement, maybe? Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Srila Prabhupada often quoted a very, very famous verse. Janma sarthaki karakar para upakar. In this verse he said the basic goal of everyone's life is twofold. And that goal is universal into all times, places and circumstances. The first thing Srila Prabhupada would urge people when he saw them was Janma Sarthaka. Make your own life perfect. And then Pada Upakar. Then try and go out in the world and make other people's lives beautiful. Make the world beautiful. And help people to become connected to the real purpose of life. And so Srila Prabhupada's message was the same from day one till the final day he was physically present here. And all he said, I'm trying to do by all of my traveling and sharing of spiritual knowledge is to encourage people, number one, make your life perfect. And number two, try to share that in a selfless, compassionate way with other people. And so that's the goal of our life. The best thing we can do in the world is, the best gift we have for the world is our own consciousness, our own character, our own compassionate heart. And therefore first work on yourself to become pure in consciousness. Imagine if we could become free of lust, envy, greed, anger, pride, harshness, all these things. How beautiful that would be. And then if we could go out in the world and help other people to do the same, that's really what the world needs. The world is not going to improve in any way separate from the proliferation of spiritual consciousness. And so that's what we're here to do. So I think that's what Srila Prabhupada would tell us to do.
Especially for people who have like intrusive thoughts or ADHD or kind of have more problems controlling their
Thank you so much. Instead of seeing chanting as a discipline, instead of seeing chanting as a spiritual practice, think of chanting as having a conversation with God. You know what it means to have a meaningful conversation with someone. It means you have to be present. It means you have to give your attention. It means you have to listen carefully. It means you have to try to express yourself honestly. It means that whatever you hear in that conversation, you have to try to then do something with it. And then what happens is your conversation with someone becomes meaningful. So sometimes we overcomplicate chanting. It's not an esoteric thing. Just think, now, when I wake up in the morning, the first conversation I'm going to have is a conversation with God. And then I'll speak to other people. And then I'll speak and deal with the world around me. But first, let me begin by having a conversation with God. And if you speak honestly, if you speak with attention, and if you express yourself from the heart, then you will feel reciprocation, and you will feel a reply, and you will feel, yes, there is a relationship here. So it means try to chant first thing in the morning. Try to chant with attention. Try to chant not diverting your attention and splitting it to other things, but giving yourself fully. And it also means try to chant from the heart. Then Krishna will listen. But Krishna won't force himself into our life, because he gives us our free will. So only when we show from our free will that we really want it, then only he will come. Otherwise, he will patiently wait until we really want him to come. So practice makes perfect. So keep trying. And the mind will wander. But Krishna told Arjuna, whenever your mind wanders, just bring it back and try again. Alright.
I have a question, Maharaj. Maybe it's overwhelmed, but Rose, you're sitting here. Rose, hello, Rose. And the other student, I forgot your name, dear. You were Olga, yes. And you know, I'm so happy to see you here. I met them at the high school in Amsterdam, where I give sometimes presentations about Hinduism. And then I showed the short video of Prabhupada and how he came and all the things, the hippies, and they saw it. But I really wonder, guys, what makes you come here? We had a chat together after, right? You had so many things you were worried about and thinking about. Please, you can ask questions. I told you I can't answer them, so feel free. And what triggered you, dear, that you're here? Can you give some insight? I'm so curious and I'm so happy.
I just wanted to know more.
Yeah.
And to understand everything, and I want to understand more.
Thank you so much for being open-minded and coming here. Yeah, it's a great science. Krishna consciousness, which is what we're teaching here. We try to share with people that more than a religion, it's actually a spiritual science. And so the idea is that what we're teaching here is an opportunity to actually dynamically perceive God in your life, or the spiritual reality in your life. Therefore, it's not bound to a particular religion or a particular nation or a particular culture. But anyone, if they practice it with sincerity, with intention, then they will actually experience something much more in life. And so, I guess the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness is to encourage people to become spiritual scientists and to question, is there something more? And the scriptures say that is the real utilization of the human form of life. Because in the human form of life we have intelligence. And so that intelligence should be used to try to understand whether there is some other meaning to it all. So thank you for coming. Anyone else? Yes.
You started speaking about living fear and experiencing spiritual.
Louder, Kira, a little bit louder, if you can.
Can you maybe speak a little bit about fear that comes with spiritual practice, fear of committing an offense or fear of not making mistakes in your spiritual practice. I find that sometimes a little bit debilitating, so I was wondering if you maybe have some tips on how to deal with that.
So there's a beautiful verse in the scripture. Murko vadati vishnaya, dhiro vadati vishnave, ubayor tu samam punyam bhavagrahi janardana. So in this verse is mentioned, if one is not understanding Sanskrit grammar properly, then they may mispronounce something. However, ubayor tu samam punyam, they will get the same benefit as someone who pronounces it perfectly. If their intention, if their sincerity, if their devotion, if their heart is in the right place, because divinity or Krishna is known as Bhavagrahi, one who looks at the heart. And so God is not a religious fanatic. God is not there trying to catch you out on a technicality. God is not there waiting for you to make a mistake so then He can throw a thunderbolt down and catch you. He wants you to do it. He wants you to be successful. And all He wants to see is that you're trying with your heart. And therefore, in spiritual life, there's one thing and one thing only, which is of the prime importance. And that is your purity and your love. And therefore, if you do things with purity and love, even if there's some mistake along the way, then that will not be held against you. And so, people relate to God on different levels. The lowest level is when you relate to God out of fear. Higher than that is when you relate to God out of desire, because you want something. Higher than that is when you relate to God out of duty, because you feel an obligation. But it said higher than all of that is when you relate to God out of love. So we should be aware, we should be conscious, we should try to do things without being insensitive or unkind towards others. So we should be cautious. But at the same time, we should be confident that Krishna is a nice guy. And He'll look at your heart and He'll understand the language of your heart. Even if there's a mistake. Is that okay? Yeah, Partha.
Maharaj, so we see that as a gathering, and as you're talking about how to internalize, how to develop, and how to spread, right? You have in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says Kali Kalira Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vinanahe Tava Prabhatan. So how does one actually develop Shakti? Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi. How does one actually develop true Shakti? By internalizing the process.
So how do you develop the Shakti to actually contribute to the world and share spirituality with others?
Well, yeah,
Krishna consciousness?
the Ramchit Manasa says that when somebody with a pure consciousness speaks, that automatically it destroys the anarthas within the heart. That's what Tulsidas says in Ramchit Manasa.
Abraham Lincoln said something interesting. He said, it's amazing what you can achieve when you don't care who gets the credit. So when someone tries to serve others, when someone tries to communicate spiritual truths, when one sings the holy name, and they're completely selfless, there's no sense of what am I going to get from this? How am I going to be seen? Is it bringing attention, benefit, power to me? As soon as we forget about all of those things and it really becomes about the person that we're serving, then what happens is we become instruments in which we can create amazing change in the world. Some people love to preach, but do they love the people that they preach to? That's the real thing. And so, I remember once I was on the street distributing books. So at one point in the day, a Christian lady came up to me. So she was impressed, like, wow, you're a monk, you're teaching people about God. But she was like, you really should be worshipping Jesus. But in a nice way. She wasn't fanatical, but she really was insistent that you're amazing, this is wonderful, but only if you're Jesus. And I'm like, no, we also. She was like, no, Jesus. Anyway, she walked away. 20 minutes later, I saw her sitting on the bench, watching me as I stopped people, distributing books. The amazing thing is, 6 hours later, she was still sitting there. And after 6 hours, I kind of finished all my books. I had done the whole day, and I was walking off, and then she came running behind me, and she said, you're amazing. What you're doing is incredible. And I just wanted to give you this one book. And I was like, you waited 6 hours to give me one book? You could have just given it to me. She said, no, I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't want to be rude. But I really wanted you to have this book. And then I realized the whole day I had been giving books to people, but I don't think I gave one book to anyone with the level of compassion and concern that she gave that book to me with. And on that day she taught me, some people love to preach, but do you love the people you preach to? Because Srila Prabhupada loved the people, because he wasn't in it for his own fame or recognition. Therefore he touched people's hearts. Because people know when someone is doing something and they have no ego. And so the moment we get, basically all we're trying to do is get out of the way. Get our ego, pride, and all of that out of the way, and just genuinely try to give something to someone for their benefit. And then, when we have that desire to serve, then miracles happen. And then you will be used in mystical ways. And we all have the power to do that. So, Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America, he said, Krishna, I'm a puppet in your hands. And now if you brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance. Make me dance as you wish. So basically, we have to become a puppet, not a muppet. I don't know if that helps.
Any more questions? Comments? Questions?
Yes.
Please?
why do we feel envious, and how do we deal with that? Because among all these shadows, enviousness is the most dangerous, because we create enemies that we don't even realize. Sometimes we are even envious with the God.
Yes, envy is so difficult. They say it takes an advanced person to feel genuine compassion in somebody else's distress. But it takes an even more advanced person to feel genuinely happy in somebody else's success. You know the story of the man who got the benediction from the genie, that you can have whatever you want, but your neighbor will get double. But you know what it's like, when you hear one thing, you get selective hearing and you forget about the rest of it. So he said, I get whatever I want. Amazing. So, I want a 5-story house. Boom. And then he went to the 5th story, looked out, and the neighbor had 10. He said, I want a Mercedes Benz. Boom. Stepped in. Neighbor had 2. I want a beautiful wife. I won't go there. It's not a statement on polygamy. Seething with envy. And then you know what he said, right? Let me go blind in one eye. Ishopanishad explains, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. God is perfect and complete, and therefore everyone emanating from God is also perfect and complete. But the problem is, because we've forgotten that we have a relationship with the perfect and complete, at the moment all of us are feeling incomplete. And when you feel incomplete, then it means you feel insecure. And when you feel insecure, then it means you need attention, acknowledgement, appreciation. And when that doesn't come, then what happens is we start competing, comparing, and then we start criticizing. And then envy takes over. So the only way to overcome envy is to understand I'm a pure soul, connected to the Supreme Pure. God loves me. What more do I want in my life? But because we don't know that, because we haven't landed with that deep realization, we are feeling perpetually insecure and therefore envious of others. And so the great souls have no envy. Dhira dhira jana priyo priyaparo nirmatsaro pujito. It said that the Goswamis of Vrindavan, everyone loved them. Even the rough people, even the gentle people, everyone loved them. Why? Nirmatsaro. So therefore, yes, we must become more spiritually connected. And then naturally we won't look to others and feel envious, but we'll look to others, we'll learn from them, we'll be happy for them, and we'll desire to contribute to their life. Easier said than done. Okay, she's standing up, it sounds serious.
And so I can just imagine a little bit how your life has changed from like being one country, now you're going happily country to country, going beyond the clouds every other day. And so I was just wondering, actually for two levels, what have you or what are you realizing staying so shortly wherever you are relatively and meeting so many people from so many countries? Maybe you'd like to share some of your realizations. That, and also how on earth are you keeping up? How, like we are all busy and tired more or less. But what do you do?
Me too.
How are you doing? Do you have some like hacks and tips? Like how do you maintain what you're able to do? It's amazing.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Each one of us have a nature. Each one of us have our purpose. Each one of us have a life that works for us. Sometimes people look at our life and say, wow, that's such a hard life, moving from place to place, living out of a suitcase. I mean, for me, it's just fun. I just don't perceive it like that, you know? It's actually just very nice. Yeah, it gets tiring sometimes, it gets busy. But it's beautiful. I wake up in the morning and I realize I couldn't have asked for anything more in my life. Every day I'm with spiritual people. Every day I can share wisdom. Every day I can chant the mantra and be in a kirtan. And every day I remind myself, just passing through, just here for some time. Do what we can while we're here. If we can touch a few hearts and put a smile on a few people's faces, wonderful. And if Krishna wants to make it bigger, so be it. And if not, no worries. Just doing what we're meant to do. So I think all of us, kind of like, I would look at many of you and I would say, you guys are amazing. Like you live in the world, you have a job, you have a family, you have a career, you have so many responsibilities, and then you make so much time for Krishna consciousness is actually amazing. And I'm not just saying that, really. For me, it's like, I could never balance anything. Therefore, I just had to eject myself out of the whole game. I'm useless at balancing things. So, Krishna says every soul is amazing. And every devotee is touching the world in their own unique, beautiful way. And all of you are the hope for the world. So I don't really think like we're anything special. Yeah, we get the respect. Swami. What's in the name? We're all just souls at the end of the day, trying to love Krishna. But yeah, traveling place to place is beautiful. If someone gets on your nerves, it's okay. So just move on. That's the best bit about traveling. What did I learn from traveling? Yeah, I've traveled all the continents now practically. Last year I took nearly 100 flights. I was in a lot of different countries. And my realization is that wherever you go, everyone's actually looking for the same thing. It's amazing. You go to different places and it doesn't matter. The cultures change like anything. The economic bracket sometimes changes. Sometimes I can be in the home of a millionaire, or I can be on the street with a homeless person. I can be with the young, the old, and it's amazing. Everyone's looking for the same thing because everyone's just a spiritual being looking for God. So it fascinates me actually how everyone is in one sense very, very different, but in another sense very much the same. And it confirms to me that what we have in our scriptures, what we have in these wisdom books is actually what everyone is looking for. It's amazing. The three biggest questions that people have in the world today are: what is my purpose? How do I find love? And how can I have better mental and physical health? And it's like, this is exactly what our scriptures teach people. So yeah, my realization is that the world needs spiritual wisdom more than ever. And when we wake up in the morning, we have to jump out of bed because there's so much amazing things we have to do in this world. So you've all heard me say that the best alarm clock in the world is purpose. And so when we know that we have a beautiful purpose, you may not realize, I mean, I'm not saying you, of course you realize, you've been doing this for decades. But oftentimes we don't realize what we have and how this can touch someone's life. This is what people are looking for. And it's so beautiful to be able to be an instrument of that magic. So, every day I see people's hearts touched by Krishna consciousness. It's amazing. So, I was just at the airport recently and the guy goes, I know you guys, your mantra is amazing. Hare Krishna Dalai Lama. Hare Krishna Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama. And I said, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. He goes, no, Hare Krishna Dalai Lama. He was a really nice person actually. And we had a great conversation. And I learned many things from him actually. He was so sincere, such a sincere person. So it's beautiful, everyone's becoming touch. So. Yeah, don't underestimate it. Sometimes it feels like we're just a tiny movement, just a band of a few Hare Krishnas out in the big city of Amsterdam, banging a few drums, and we're gonna take over the world. Are we just kidding ourselves? Like sometimes you can think like that. Don't underestimate it. This is powerful. And it's a movement of miracles. And if you hang around long enough, you begin to see more and more miracles. So let's just be alive and active. And we have to thank you for being alive and active. Rati Manjari Mataji is like deep inspiration. So many years. And when she sings, she penetrates people's hearts. Powerful. So thank you for just making yourself available out there and delivering spirituality with kindness and compassion. You are one of our inspirations. All right, Geeta Govinda.
So, okay.
She is the boss here.
No, I'm not. Oh my God, no, please, no.
And she's a very...
Now you are offending me, you know. Okay. So,
And actually, thank you to Geeta Govinda Machi. She is like a ball of enthusiasm, inspiration. She just like opens her home and just makes it into a whole temple, and it's so beautiful. You have made an embassy of the spiritual world in Almere.
yeah,
Did I say it right? Almere.
Almere.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So may you continue in your wonderful spirit of hospitality, and may many people become touched by your genuine sharing of Krishna consciousness. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
I think she deserves a round of applause.
No. Jai Shri Prabhupada, the one who inspired me to open something, the one who just, not backed me, but he few times told me, please Now you left Amsterdam, so try to open something in your center. People are spiritual inclined. Who here is for the first time here? Who? And particularly the new ones from Almere. Here, one is here. There with the big belly. Almere, deep under. So, it's all by the inspiration of, you see that picture there on the wall? That's my beloved spiritual master. His name is His Holiness Kadamba Keshava Swami. He is in another world now, the spiritual world. He left his body 2 years ago. And by his mercy, and more than that, by the mercy of his disciple, Keshava Swami, maybe he might have forgotten, but he is the one who 3 weeks after Maharaj left his body, you came to Holland for King's Day, and you were here, and you opened this center, and it's all for our Gurudeva's pleasure. So it's only by their mercy and the mercy of Parampara, the mercy of all of you. So no credits to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to introduce Maharaj. Oh, I thought Maharaj is going to introduce himself, but you can do it, and or otherwise I read because a lot of you are new here. And I mentioned Swami is coming, Keshava Swami is coming, and he's wonderful. I glorified all his qualifications, but it's maybe nice to hear something more about his Guru. So in the future, you might also consider to ask him to do a presentation somewhere, you know. He is sharing spiritual wisdom for our benefit, for the benefit of the whole universe. So, His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami, born in the suburbs of London.
I wrote this one myself.
That's why I have to read it. I said, can you introduce yourself? So, now, written by His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami. Born in the suburbs of London, Maharaj, Nimai, my grandson, is making noise, okay? Born in the suburb of London, Maharaj was a talented cricket player, growing up, and was even picked for trials to play at country level. But destiny took him on a different course when, at the age of 16, he was given a Bhagavad Gita by a Hare Krishna monk. The search for spiritual bliss took hold of him and never let go. After graduating from UCI in information management over 2 decades ago, he spent 6 months traveling in India and then swiftly joined the Bhakti Manor temple afterwards. Donning the saffron robes of a monk, he became one of the pioneers in the modernizing and raising the standards of the Bhakti Manor monastery, and is now one of the strongest leaders in the UK Vaishnava, followers of Krishna community. His main motivation behind these achievements is to help people find Krishna, find themselves, and find their purpose in spirituality. Over the last 10 years, he had also established himself as a prolific author of contemporary Krishna consciousness literature. I guess Chitralekha brought some of his books, huh? Yes, yeah. That she's going to explain. He also started up the School of Bhakti and teaches various courses in the school, and is particularly fond of delving into the sacred scriptures. One of his great inspirations in life is the great Vaishnava saint and poet Sri Narottama Das Thakur, who mentions in a famous poem that to serve in the association and live in the association of devotees, that's my only desire. Let it also become your desire. That's my addition. Many would appreciate this sentiment, but Maharaj has made it his reality. He accepted the order of sannyas or renunciate life in 2022, and although it's based at a manor, now travels around the world sharing his wisdom, and again an addition, and conquering the whole world, the whole universe. by his spiritual wisdom, by his presentation, by all he is gifted with by Krishna. Give him a big Haribol.
I didn't actually write that version, by the way.
So maybe you can tell something about books, Chitralika, please. Sorry, the program said that there should be Gaura Arti now, but if you, I don't know if we have to do the Gaura Arti, it's on the program, and then if we have time, but yeah.
We don't have to, we can take and
Yeah.
the kirtan.
Shall we do kirtan and prasadam? Yeah, okay. We will do the Gaura Arti another time. And you opened the center and you did a Gaura Arti at the opening day. Yeah, the Gaura Arti for these deities. And a small thing about this, you see here, or you see on the altar, Gauni Thai. Gauni Thai, maybe you can show Srini or Chitralika, Gauni Thai. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhu Nityananda for the new ones. This is Lord Krishna as he appeared approximately 500 years ago with his brother Balaram. 500 years ago as a devotee. And these devotees come from Vrindavan, and where name-given ceremony was done by Guru Dev. So, yeah, may they bless all of you. So, yes, can you say something about, then we do kirtan and we will have prasadam. Is that okay?
So if you want to know a little bit more about the wisdom that Maharaj just shared and to have something to take back home to study, we have